I'm Johnny Carter, and on February 5th, 1968, the C-131's ramp hit the ground with a metallic scream that jolted my spine, dumping me straight into Pleiku's heat, a thick, suffocating wave that slammed my face and burned down my throat like I'd swallowed a lit match. Red dust exploded under my boots, swirling up in clouds that stung my eyes and painted my olive green fatigues the rusty shade I'd never wash out. The choppers roared overhead, their blades chopping the air with a relentless thump-thump that hammered my skull, drowning out the last echoes of America I'd carried from that long Pacific flight. My duffel bag dug into my shoulder, heavier than it had ever been, my M14 strapped tight across my chest. It would warm against my sweaty palms, and I stood there, frozen for a heartbeat, staring at Vietnam's raw, wild face. After days of engines droning, Fort Dix fading, and Ohio slipping through my fingers like a dream I couldn't hold, this was it. My war started here, on this cracked airstrip, under this merciless sun, and I couldn't shake the whisper in my head. Will I ever make it back? The plane's engines still growled behind me as I took my first step off that ramp, my legs wobbling like they'd forgotten how to move after hours folded up in the C-131's belly. My boots hit the ground, sinking a half-inch into the red dirt, and the heat wrapped around me, tight and heavy, like a wet blanket I couldn't shake off. Sweat beaded on my forehead, trickling down my temples, and I blinked hard, the dust blurring my vision. Tommy stumbled out next, his red hair matted under his M1 helmet, freckles popping against his pale skin, his brown eyes squinting into the glare. Jesus, Johnny, it's like walking into an oven, he croaked, wiping his face with a sleeve already streaked with dirt, and I nodded, my throat too parched to answer. Eddie came after, his small frame hunched under his gear, glasses fogged with steam, clutching that damn notebook of his like it was a lifeline. Hotter in Philly in August, he muttered, adjusting his specs, and I saw his hand shake a little, the pencil trembling as he tucked it behind his ear. Big Mike followed, all 6'3" of him, his black hair slick with sweat, gray eyes scanning the airstrip like he was sizing up a steer back in Texas. Move, Carter, he grunted, shoving past, his duffel thumping against his broad back. And I stepped aside, feeling small next to him, my own gear dragging me down. The airstrip was a madhouse, Hueys buzzing like giant wasps, their downdrafts blasting us with more dust, soldiers shouting over the noise, crates banging as they hit the ground. I squinted through the haze, my blue eyes stinging, and saw jeeps tearing past, tires kicking up red clouds that stuck to my lips and coated my tongue. My dog tags clinked against my chest, warm as my skin now, and I shifted my M14, its weight settling into my bones, a reminder of Fort Dix, those cold mornings on the range, his barking in my ear. But this wasn't Fort Dix anymore. This was real, and the choppers weren't practice runs. They were loaded, blades gleaming, lifting off to places I couldn't see, places I'd go soon. A sergeant strode up, short, wiry, skin burned red under a faded cap, a cigarette smoldering between his lips. Line up, grunts. Move it. He snapped, his voice sharp as a whip, and I shuffled into place, boots crunching, my duffel banging my hip. Tommy fell in beside me, muttering, he's no Hayes, but he'll do, and I smirked, though my stomach churned. Eddie stood stiff, glasses slipping, while Big Mike loomed at the end, arms crossed, his jaw tight. The sergeant paced, eyeing us like meat. First platoon. Huh? Welcome to Pleiku. Don't die on day one, he said, exhaling smoke, and I swallowed hard, tasting dust and fear. I glanced back at the C-131, its gray shape shrinking as soldiers swarmed it, unloading gear, and I saw Ohio in my head, Mom waving from the porch, Mary Ann's hair catching the sun. It was gone now, swallowed by this red haze, and I wasn't sure I'd ever find it again. We stood there, sweating, as the sergeant barked orders, names, numbers, assignments, his clipboard a blur in his hands. The heat pressed harder, my helmet baking my skull, and I shifted my weight, boots grinding the dirt. Tommy nudged me. Think they got showers? And I snorted, not for us, pal. Eddie scribbled something, his pencil scratching fast, and Big Mike spat into the dust. Better in freezing at Dick's. I nodded, but the truth sat heavy. This wasn't better, just different, and I felt in my bones. Vietnam wasn't letting go easy. They marched us to a staging area, a cracked slab of earth under a tin roof shack, the sun hammering down like it wanted us dead. I dropped my duffel with a thud, the sound lost in the chopper roar, and wiped my face, my hands smearing red with dust. It smelled sharp, dry earth jet fuel, and something bitter like burned grass, and I coughed, the taste coating my throat. Back home, dust was soft gray, kicked up by Dad's tractor or my old bike, but this was meaner, alive, clawing into my lungs. I thought of Ohio's fields, the cool air off the creek, and Pleiku laughed at me, its heat a fist in my chest. Tommy flopped beside me, pulling off his helmet, his red hair sticking up wild. "This dirt's gonna kill me for its own due," he said, grinning, and lit a cigarette, the match flaring bright in the shade. I took it from him, the smoke harsh but familiar, cutting through the dust taste, and exhaled slow, watching it curl up. "Better in Hayes' gas chamber," I said, and he chuckled. "Yeah, at least I can breathe this." Eddie sat cross-legged, his small frame dwarfed by his gear, glasses fogged again, scribbling in his book. Lines, maps, maybe Pleiku's airstrip. "Keeps me steady," he said when I raised an eyebrow, and I nodded, glad he had something. Big Mike leaned against a post, his big hands brushing dust off his fatigues. "Hotter in a Texas grill," he muttered, and I smirked, picturing him roping cattle under a sun like this. A Huey swooped in close, its wind blasting us, grit pelting my face, and I shielded my eyes, watching soldiers climb out, lean, hard-eyed, uniform stained dark with sweat and dirt. One guy, young but hollow, caught my stare, his cheeks sunken, rifle dangling loose. He nodded, quick and sharp, and I nodded back, my gut twisting. They'd been out there in the green, and they looked like they'd left pieces behind. The chopper lifted off, thumping away, and I wondered how long it'd take to look like that. How many days till Pleiku carved me down to bones and dust? We sat there, waiting, the heat sinking deeper, my fatigues clinging wet to my skin. Tommy passed me the cigarette again. "You think Mom's baking today?" he asked, voice soft, and I pictured her, apron dusted with flour, the kitchen warm with cinnamon. "Maybe," I said, "apple pie like always." He grinned. "Save me a slice when we're back," and I nodded, though the wind felt far fragile. Eddie looked up. "Philly's got pretzels, soft ones," he said, and Big Mike grunted, "Steak's better in pie." We laughed, short and rough, holding on to those scraps of home, the dust settling around us like a shroud. The sergeant came back, barking, "Gear check now," and I stood, slinging my M14, its weight familiar but heavier here. We lined up, opening duffels, canteens rattling, socks spilling, my hand steady now, calluses from Fort Dick's rough against the canvas. I pulled out Mom's letter, creased and soft, and tucked it back quick, not ready to read it here, not with Pleiku watching. The sergeant paced, rifles clean, grunts, "Jungle, don't wait," and I nodded, running my thumb over the M14's barrel, its oil faint under the dust smell. This wasn't a range anymore, this was war, and I felt it creeping closer, step by red dust step. They loaded us into a Deuce and a half, its engine coughing to life as we climbed aboard, the metal bench searing through my fatigues. I took the tailgate, Tommy beside me, Eddie and Big Mike across, our gear clattering as the truck jolted forward. The airstrip shrank behind, Pleiku unfolding, tin shacks glinting, tents flapping, red dirt stretching to green hills under a sky too bright, too blue. The heat rode with us, my helmet baking, sweat dripping down my neck, and I gripped my M14, its barrel cold against my knee, a lifeline in this furnace. The road was a mess, ruts jarring us, dust pouring in thick, coating my face, my tongue, my teeth. Tommy coughed hard, spitting over the side. "Tastes like blood," he said, wiping his mouth, and I nodded, remembering Ohio's dirt roads, soft, gray, Mary and pedaling beside me, her laugh on the wind. This dust was different, sharp, red, sticking like it owned me, and I spat too, watching it hit the road, a dark spot swallowed fast. Big Mike leaned back, arms crossed. Beats snow any day, he said, and Eddie adjusted his glasses, sketching the hills, his pencil bouncing with the truck. Philly's got asphalt. None this, he muttered, and I wondered what he drew. Home, or this alien place pulling us in. A chopper buzzed low, its shadow racing over us, blades chopping the air, and I craned my neck, watching it dart into the green. "That's us soon," Tommy said, voice tight, and I nodded, the knot in my gut twisting harder. Those hills weren't just pretty. They hid jungle, Viet Cong, bullets, and I wasn't ready, not yet. The truck hit a bump, slamming my spine into the bench, and I gripped the edge, my knuckles white, staring at the dust trail behind us. It stretched back, a red thread to the airstrip, to Fort Dix, to Ohio, unraveling with every mile, and I felt it. Home slipping away, Vietnam sinking its claws deeper. We passed a burned-out truck off the road, blackened, twisted, tires melted, and I stared, my breath catching. Tommy whistled low. Somebody didn't make it, and Big Mike's gray eyes narrowed. "Keep your eyes up, Carter." I nodded, but the wreck stayed with me, its metal glinting in the sun, a ghost of what could be. Eddie sketched it, his pencil fast, and I wondered if he'd show it someday, if we'd ever get to tell this story. The road stretched on, hills closing in, and I gripped my rifle tighter, the heat pressing, the dust choking, Pleiku's welcome wearing thin. The truck rolled into Camp Inari as the sun dipped low, gold streaking the hills, the gate ahead, barbed wire curling, sandbags piled high, a guard tower casting a long shadow. I jumped down, boots sinking into the dirt, the heat easing a touch, though it still clung to my skin like a second shirt. Tents sprawled out, olive drab against the red earth, soldiers moving slow, some shirtless, skin burned dark, others hauling crates, rifles slung low. The air hummed, choppers thumping far off, a generator buzzing, voices barking orders, and I stood there, duffel on my feet, M14 in hand, letting it sink in. A corporal waved us over, leathery face, tired eyes, a faded patch on his sleeve. "First platoon this way. Gear up, bunk down," he said, pointing to a tent row, and I followed Tommy, Eddie, and Big Mike, our boots kicking dust, the smell hitting me again, fuel, sweat, and that sour rot like fruit left too long. The tent was a sweatbox, canvas trapping the heat, cots sagging, a bulb flickering yellow overhead. I dropped my gear, the cot groaning under me, and peeled off my helmet, my brown hair plastered wet, sticking to my forehead. Tommy flopped down, grinning, "Home sweet hell, huh?" And I smirked, though it didn't feel like a joke. Not here. Big Mike unpacked slow, his big hands steady, muttering, "Texas barn's cooler in this," while Eddie sat cross-legged, writing fast, his glasses fogged again. I pulled out Mom's letter, soft, creased from Fort Dix, and held it, her words faint under my thumb, "Stay safe, Johnny." I hadn't written back, not since the flight, and Pleiku felt too far, too strange. The choppers pulsed outside, a heartbeat I couldn't ignore, and I lay back, the canvas above me rippling, the dust in my lungs, my mind drifting. Mom at the stove, Dad's tractor rumbling, Marian's voice calling me across the fields. It was sharp, that memory cutting through the heat, and I clenched the letter, not ready to let it go. Night fell slow, the heat softening, the sky bruising purple over the hills. I stepped outside, M14 slung over my shoulder, the air alive with bugs, mosquitoes whining, nipping my neck, my hands swatting uselessly. Tommy lit a cigarette, the glow lighting his freckles, and we walked the perimeter, boots crunching, the bass buzzing, soldiers laughing by a tent, a radio crackling some tune I didn't catch, choppers landing in the dark, their lights blinking red. The dirt glowed under floodlights, and I kicked it, watching it scatter, thinking of Ohio, Marian's bare feet, the grass cool under my toes, a world away from this red mess. A guy from another tent nodded, older, jaw scarred, eyes hard. "New meat?" he asked, voice gravelly, and I nodded, feeling green. "Head down out there," he said, walking off, his rifle swinging, and Tommy exhaled smoke. Real charmer, he said, sarcastic. I shrugged, but his words stuck. Out there was real now, not a drill, and the choppers weren't just noise. They were lifelines or coffins, and I didn't know which yet. We kept walking, the bay sprawling, tents and sandbags fading into the dark, and I felt it, Vietnam, settling in, heavy as the dust on my boots. I sat by the tent, pulling out my ration, beans and franks cold, sticky, and ate slow, the taste flat against the dirt in my mouth. Big Mike tore into his "Food's food," he said, and Eddie nibbled crackers, quiet, his pencil still. The choppers faded, the night deepening, and I looked up, stars sharp, brighter than Ohio's, but cold, distant. I thought of home, of Marion's laugh, Mom's pie, and wondered if they'd know me when I got back. If I got back. Vietnam was here in my skin, my lungs, and I wasn't just Johnny anymore. I was a soldier caught on war's edge. So that was February 5th, 1968, me stepping off that sea, 1:31 into Pleiku's heat, red dust choking my throat, choppers pounding the sky, pulling me from Fort Dix's ice and Ohio's fields into Vietnam's wild heart. I'd left everything behind. Mom's kitchen, Mary Ann's smile, the life I knew, and landed here, a grunt in a war I couldn't yet grasp. That first day stretched me thin, from the airstrip's chaos to camp in Nari's tents, and night fell with a promise I couldn't name. February 6th, 1968 was hours away, my first night in that tent, when I'd hear B-52s rumble like thunder, feel the ground shake, and ask myself if I'd live through this. Want to know how I faced that darkness, how those bombs changed everything? Stay with me, subscribe, and let's step into that night together.